Hey. Welcome to
It's fat. What was that?
I know, right? We got to figure out an opening.
I'm happy you didn't say
I could
Good
do
Morning
Fat
Brussels.
Hey.
That's good.
I know, man. I used to watch
Bill
that
Cosby.
show. Hey.
Bill Cosby's. Is he still in prison, John?
Yeah.
He probably is, right?
He's still alive?
He's in the pokey.
I think he's still in prison.
I think he is, right?
Yeah, he's in prison.
Hey.
Unless Trump pardoned him on
Oh,
the
that'd have
way
been a
out.
fun pardon.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Lil Wayne and Bill Cosby.
Yeah, I think Trump self-pardoned himself, too. We'll only find out about it once they press charges.
Soon enough.
He has it in his back pocket.
He's got it.
I bet you, I
pocket
wouldn't
pardon.
be surprised. You put it in your pocket, and then when the crap hits the fan, you bust it out and say, the president pardoned me.
Look, it's dated.
That president happened to be me.
It was notarized.
The president.
Tell me that's a stretch, what I just said.
Not a stretch.
Nothing's
a stretch.
That's not a stretch.
Nothing's a stretch.
I'm predicting newspaper headlines 6 months from now. Trump pardons himself.
Wow.
Mark it, John. Mark it.
Mark
the way
it down.
I'm thinking of this is
Season
that
2, Episode 7.
Mark it right
he
now.
got like a letterhead that said President of the United States.
That's
wrote,
right.
I can't go to jail, dated it. And
No, I would do it.
Napkin.
Put it in his pocket.
Just make sure
I
you
would-
date it January 21st.
I would do it in the third person.
It's dated correctly.
Do it in the third person. The
Donald
president of the
Trump
United
can't
States
go to
hereby
Pardons
pardons
Donald
Donald
J.
J.
Trump.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Signed the President of the United States.
Donald J.
Signed
No,
Trump.
Donald
yeah.
J. Trump.
President. POTUS.
It just signed POTUS.
That's right. That's not a stretch.
It could happen.
Agree.
Is anything a stretch?
No.
Do you think
Today's
he's gonna?
day and age.
The impeachment's gonna go all the way?
Yeah. I think I think it'll go.
Really?
I do.
Senate.
Hold on.
Two-thirds.
What does
They
that
have
mean?
a- wait,
Hold on, you
two-thirds
think-
majority in the
Oh no,
Senate.
no! I thought you meant are they going to have a trial?
They're
No, I
having a
mean, do you
trial.
think they'll vote to impeach?
I think it's very tough to vote to impeach a president.
I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think they.
You
have
mean
it.
to remove the president?
To convict him.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it would
Right.
be a conviction. Yeah.
Right.
Do
Remove.
you think it'll?
Yeah. Convict and remove.
I don't
right.
think they'll get 67.
I don't think so either.
I think
I
it'll be
don't
very
think so
tough.
either.
I'd be curious to see what McConnell does because he seems pissed.
he does.
Yeah.
Well, they have to think
Very
about the
sensible.
Republicans have to think about their own political future. Like people
Yeah.
like Todd Young and Mike Braun, they have to come home to Hoosierville here, and I mean, if you're not going to convict remove the president over inciting a riot and attacking the Capitol, what do you have to do to be removed as president?
Maybe believe that your voters don't want you to. I guess I don't know. I mean, to me, I agree. If you're not going to remove somebody for that, or at least think about it, I'm not sure if it'll ever.
If I was a senator, there's no doubt. And by the way, Congressman Mervan, our new congressman here in Northwest Indiana, voted for the impeachment.
Yeah.
Notice I didn't say two words about it because he did the right thing.
Yeah, he did.
Anybody, I mean, regardless of how you felt about the first impeachment, this one was completely warranted, in my opinion. You
Yeah.
attacked the Capitol.
Yeah, and remember, the impeachment's like an indictment. So it's like, okay, yeah,
Right.
there's reason to have him go to trial. And I think
Regardless
that's
of how you
without a
felt
doubt.
about the Ukraine matter, this one's legit, totally.
I agree.
And the removal is a no-brainer if I were a senator.
Well, remember, the removal only takes a majority. So if you get the conviction, then the removal, the prohibition on election is easy. That's easy.
No, you have to get 2/3 for the conviction.
for the conviction,
Right.
and then only a simple majority for the
But
prohibition.
if you get the 2/3 for the
done,
conviction,
yeah,
bye-bye.
you're going to get the 51
Well, it's not removal, it's bar, right?
bar. Yes,
Gotcha.
correct.
You know why I don't think they're going to do it? Because
Why?
I think this whole Trump starting the Patriot Party or the MAGA Party, whatever he's calling it,
Is to
that will decimate
the
the
Republican
GOP
Party
for
yeah.
sure.
Because all of a sudden you've got
you'd get so millions of people that would go to the Patriot Party.
You know,
So
Yeah.
they don't want. I think
They don't
they're
want
going to
it.
like back off
because
on it
they're
'cause
afraid of
that.
like primaries and
Yeah,
split. Yeah,
I really
yeah.
do.
you just reminded me of something. So you have the donkeys with Democrat, right? You have the elephants with Republican, right?
Yes, you do.
If Donald Trump starts the MAGA party, it's going to be the maggots, right?
The maggots. I like
good.
that.
I think so. Yeah, I
The
think that's-
maggots.
It's a small
Yikes.
little annoying fly.
And well, no, it's
So they're not
fly
flying.
larvae.
Fly larvae
They're
that
not
lives
even
in
flies
dead
yet,
flesh.
and and they just grow in dead bodies and things. So I mean, I don't know what.
Big carcasses. And
Oh boy.
The
hey,
maggots.
Before we forget, I want we talked about this last week, Mayor, and that is that you are letting your hair grow, and it continues.
I
to
am
grow
letting my hair
and
grow. I'm letting my hair
and
grow. It is long.
Why? And
I
tell us,
have a
tell us
luscious.
what we have.
I have a luscious head of hair.
That's your
You
description.
have a
It's
flowing
wavy,
mane.
flowing mane. Thank you, John.
A wavy,
Never beat me
flowing
then.
mane.
I remind
Title
myself
of the
of
episode.
a lion.
Yes, a lion.
My flowing mane.
So he's a locomotive.
Mayor Tom's
he's a
flowing
lion.
mane.
Tom's flowing mane.
I have a flowing mane of hair.
Explain to us why you have this this luscious flowing mane of hair.
Well, I like having long hair sometimes, especially in the winter.
Sure,
I like to remind people like Kevin Smith that I have a luscious mane of hair.
you've just done that a
I
couple
have,
times.
right? And then not only that, I usually, this time of year, I start gearing up for St. Baldrick's, which
All right.
is And I usually do St. Baldrick's, which is a great organization, and I'm not trying to diminish the organization because
You've done it. I want to say 5 times, probably
more than that, dude.
Really?
I got the big award last time, like the big rapper medallion.
The big bald head. And
Dude, I'm gonna wear that around, the rapper medallion. It's like humongous. It's like
because when do you think? I don't think St. Baldrick's was a thing locally until maybe your 3rd term. Does that sound about right?
No.
You
I
think
did
earlier?
that. No, when Dave Uran got elected mayor. him and
Oh,
I
you're
did it.
right.
Right, we did. it in
That's
Grand Park
right. So
together.
that had to be the second.
That's what
term.
started out.
You're right.
Mayor
At
Dave and I.
at the fire department.
At the firehouse. That was the first time I did it. I think that's the first time Mayor Dave did it
So
as
that'd
well.
have been 07 or 08.
Yeah,
08 probably.
Right. And I've done it ever since.
Very cool.
I missed last year because I was campaigning for Congress. I didn't think a skinhead campaigning for Congress was, even though it was.
Who would have known?
Even though it was all in good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
But I decided not to. Maybe I should have, actually. As I look back upon that loss.
If only I would have shaved my head.
Everything I would have done, I should have done differently.
The opposite.
Like I should have shaved, my entire body, and I'd be sitting
Like
in
a
Congress.
swimmer.
What?
Yeah, like
If you had
pubes and everything.
swimmy
Like
body.
just
All
go,
right.
go
Thank
down
you.
to
Thank
bare
you.
bed, like
Here
a
we go.
5-year-old.
Let's get back to what you're doing about your hair.
5-year-old.
Stop. Let's get back
Rewind.
Oh, yeah,
to all right, take 2. What are you doing? What are you doing with your hair?
I'm growing up. Yeah, this is a bad time to
Yes.
especially after a tasteless joke that I just did.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm growing out my hair so that I could help a family in need. Ariana Maya is a young lady. She's in 5th grade at Harding Elementary School, battling leukemia, and her family. Besides the daily chemo treatment she has to get, she has to get some similar to a spinal tap once every 3 months. So she's going through daily chemo. I mean, she's a young warrior. I met her at Hessville Vipers, which is a football organization. At Hessville Vipers picnic, like a lunch last year, and I met her for the first time. We took a picture together, and I learned about her story, and I put it in the back of my brain. Like, I gotta
See what I can do to help
something for
this
this young
family
lady
yeah.
next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this year it comes around that I have an opportunity to shave for her, and usually we would say, okay, I'm going to do this for Ariana, and I'm going to do it through St. Baldrick's. But unfortunately, by going through St. Baldrick's, the money that I raise goes to St. Baldrick's, which is a wonderful organization. I'm not trying to diminish the organization at all, but
You want to help directly a family in your community.
this family needs help,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that I could raise $10,000 to get this haircut, and that's what my goal is.
Yeah, and John just put up the GoFundMe account. It's called Mayor Tom's Cut. The number 4, Ariana Ayemo.
Ayemo,
And
yeah.
it looks like you've already raised $3,100. So
Wow,
we're getting there. That's
we're getting there,
pretty
30%
cool.
of the way there. I just literally, it hasn't even been on 24 hours, and we're already 30% of the way there. $10,000 is a significant sum for this family. I think we can do it, and I want to do it. So I'm asking you to please be generous. This is a family. 100% of the money we raise is going to this family. 100%. It's not, and I'm not trying to diminish St. Baldrick's at all. But that's the weakness in that whole thing. Is normally I'd be raising money for St. Baldrick's, which is a great organization.
Yeah, it goes
as
to
I said.
cancer research.
And it goes to cancer research. It goes to this not-for-profit, but it really doesn't. Even though you're doing it in the family's name, it doesn't help the family. And
Directly.
I'm trying to help this family directly.
So, Tom, is there a date set yet for you cutting your hair?
As soon as possible, please.
So get that number.
I got some
Let's
long
get
hair.
that number
My
up
hair
to
is itching
10,000
my
quickly.
ears.
This hair is long. It's starting to curl.
All
It's
right.
like it's getting so long. I look like Albert Amora.
We don't want to see this luscious mane much longer. So
I don't-
please
I don't.
donate and donate.
I'm running out of gel. Like
There could only be
I've
one
got all
of
these
us.
first world problems.
Lindsay also, just for folks that are watching, put in the chat the link, so you can just copy and paste that link, or probably
I
just
saw
click on it.
your partner Steve Sursick donated $250.
Thanks, Steve.
In his
Thank
own
you.
name.
Thank
And I'm
you.
wondering where his partner's donation is. I haven't seen it.
Shame.
the-
Live stream shame.
This
I
is
know.
the first I've heard of this fundraiser.
I think you should double up, Steve. Personally,
Wow.
Like, 'cause
We don't like to show up one another.
I think you should.
I'm
He
gonna
just
go.
called
I'm gonna
you
go
out.
less.
Well, if you go 5, then Steve has to go 5.
I'm gonna go
I think
249.
we need a poll right
Steve
here.
can, so
We're gonna should Kevin double Steve's donation?
I think it's a no-brainer.
You're going to see
personally,
Smith
right?
Sursick. I'm just going to donate it from the firm.
No,
so we
that's
have
weak,
Steve's
man.
money too. Steve gave 500. I gave 250.
Yeah.
No, but with all kidding aside, Tom, I think number one, great idea. Number two, obviously, when stuff like this happens, it just breaks your heart to see a family and let alone someone that young going through something that serious.
She's such a little trooper
And
too.
so we can get. Obviously, we're going to get strength from Ariana's struggle, and thank you for you doing this.
This is
because,
what community is all about. This
yep.
is what we're supposed to do. And I realize we have a lot of people from across the country listening to this right now. It's still like, this is what, and we are a community, even though you may be in Florida, even though you may be in California, you could even be in Belgium right now listening, but this is community. We are a community. We all come together to listen to the show twice a week. We do have somebody that's also a fan of the show that needs our help, and this is how we do it, and we're 30% of the way there right now. I'm just asking you to dig deep. I think if everybody that's listening to this pod does a couple $100, it can make a real difference.
If you might not be able to afford $100, give $10, give $5,
$5,
whatever you can, whatever you can afford. Every donation's important.
Or if you're somebody like Kevin, give $500.
Boy.
And if you can't give any money, share it on your Facebook. Send it to your friends via text.
Thank you, Linz.
Spread the word.
Good
Did
call.
we do that on Left of Center? Have we shared it on there and all that, John?
We will today.
Yes.
It'll happen. So
So
get
this
it out
is-
there.
Kyle the intern. Will do
Yeah,
it.
Kyle the intern.
Thank you.
100% of the money we raise is going to Ariana's family, and they need it. Like, they've suffered tragedy this year. Besides, they had a death in the family of one of Ariana's siblings this year as well. To add insult to injury, on top of a pandemic, on top of a super tough year because their daughter's going through leukemia, they've had another death in the family. It's
That's
a really
hard to
sad.
fathom. I mean, as a parent, I think anyone who has children, I mean, that's just.
It's a really,
real tough.
really sad story. It's really, these people really need our help, and I'm asking you to rally around this family.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Let's before we switch gears too much. I guess this is switching gears a lot. I want to remind people that there's a Super Bowl coming.
Yeah, she just walked out. You want to wait until she gets back?
Let's wait till she gets
Yeah.
back. All right, let's talk about something else.
I drove on the toll road the other day, first time.
Oh,
Yeah,
how was
I
that?
swore
The
that
toll road.
the Cline Avenue Bridge toll road.
Ah, yes.
This is a story. If you're not familiar with this, we had a governor, Governor Mitch Daniels, who he's a couple governors ago. This is before Pence became governor. Governor Daniels was a big time R. Did not really appreciate Northwest Indiana, like a lot of other governors would. He
you
really
deserve all the
bad
graft,
government, right?
bad government you've elected, or whatever.
Right. And we had a bridge go down. It was a link between us and Chicago, and a lot of use by blue collar workers that go to the steel mills and go to BP Amoco up on the lake. They use this bridge to get to work. It would literally save them 15 minutes compared to the alternative. And
Well, it also took those trucks off their regular roads.
good
by
point,
the way.
Kevin. Yeah, trucks, and it was a freeway, so it was an easy way to Chicago. It was called the Cline Avenue Bridge, and the Cline Avenue Bridge failed spectacularly. Luckily, nobody got hurt, but we found out, luckily, that this bridge was about to fall down. The state of Indiana saved us from, hopefully, from possibly
Major tragedy.
a tragedy. Yeah, fatalities.
They closed
And
it.
They closed the bridge, and we're like, okay, so when is it going to be rebuilt?
You got $2 billion in the bank.
This is 2008, probably ish.
I'm with you, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Governor Mitch at the time said 30,000 cars a day on this bridge. We don't need to rebuild it. 30,000 cars per day use this bridge, and they didn't rebuild it. And what that did over the last 12 years is shoved all the traffic that used to use the Cline Avenue Bridge into our local streets, into my city, into Whiting, into Highland.
And you saw it on Calumet in Indianapolis.
You
Boulevard,
saw it everywhere.
Without
We
a
saw
doubt.
semis going down neighborhood streets because these semis used to be on that bridge, but because the Republican governor at the time didn't want to rebuild that bridge, it was like a $40 million fix, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And because he didn't want to spend $40 million in Democratic territory.
Peanuts, by the way, as far as the state goes.
Dude, that's like nickel on the floor, right? But it had all to do with where that bridge failed. If that bridge fails in any other part of the state, it's rebuilt for sure. 30,000 cars a day. But because it's here in North Lake County, particularly in Hammond and East Chicago and Gary area, the governor said, no, I'm not rebuilding this bridge.
Well, you saw the other bridge across the Ohio River that needed to be fixed, and they fixed it.
They fixed it with our money, funny
Yeah,
enough.
absolutely.
With money from the casino gaming boats and things
toll
like that,
road,
and
yeah.
the toll road sale. So anyway, they don't build this bridge back in 2008. And for the last 12 years, basically, there's been no bridge at all. Then the state contracts out, I think it was through Pence or through Holcomb, they contract out with a firm out of Florida whose bridge just collapsed, funny enough. But we don't need to get into that. They were the same group that built the
Florida
pedestrian?
Atlantic University Bridge.
Yeah,
I
the
believe.
pedestrian bridge that collapsed. And I don't think that
It
killed
did kill. Yes, it did.
It did?
Yep.
Oh, man, that's too bad. I'm
Yes,
sorry I missed
it
that. But this bridge was built by the same group that built our new Cline Avenue Bridge. Not that it's going to collapse, and I'm sure it's structurally sound.
We're not saying that.
I'm sure it's structurally sound. But anyway, now it's a toll bridge. And it's not at like a 50 center either. It's like
$250, I want to say. $250 each way.
I thought it was more than that. Do you guys know for sure?
Not sure.
I'll have to look. It's free till the end of the month.
Free for January, so I've been driving it as much as possible, and then it goes like to half
careful.
tolls in February, and then in March it's full tolls forever, right? So anyway,
There's
I have
one
a
big difference, though.
it's single bridge. So the
Single
other
lane.
single lane. The other one used to have multiple lanes in one bridge, right?
With a concrete median.
Right, with the concrete median. So it was 4 lanes, concrete median down the middle, and 2 lanes in one direction, 2 lanes in the other. The new bridge, to save money, they built one pass, same path, but only 2 lanes with no concrete median in between, right?
Right. Wow.
It
Just
is
double yellow
so
line.
Terrifying to drive on.
It's
that.
scary.
Well,
and I don't
when
like
it
one
first
lane roads
opened-
anyway.
When it first opened, I
Who
was
does?
driving up to Whiting in there. Oh my God. You see a car incoming with like, everyone has super bright headlights for some reason now. You can't see anything.
Well, try it in
There's
the
like
snow.
a merge
At nighttime,
area.
it's terrifying.
Well, I did it in the snow, okay?
Ooh.
And the weird thing is, so I'm going up the bridge, and you can't see any lines, and I'm going up, and like, let's say, I bet you I've driven that bridge, I'm going to say 1,000 times in my life. You know, because over years, I take it almost every day, multiple times a day. It was an important bridge. And I'm used to driving on this bridge as a 4-lane highway, 2 lanes in one direction, 2 lanes in the other. And maybe I'm stupid, call it old habits, but as I'm driving on this bridge, I almost swerved into the fast lane, quote unquote.
Do you think that was just because you were so used to it being 2 lanes?
And plus, it was snowy, so I was discombobulated. I couldn't see lines on the street. And I literally, out of old habits, almost pulled into the fast lane.
You know what I thought was really weird, and maybe.
But if I did that, Kevin, it would have caused a head-on collision.
Oh yeah, and that's what I mean. I don't know if it's. I can't figure out if it's because I'm so used to the old one, or it's just a new merge. But when you merge onto it, either direction, there's like this. There's a point where it feels like the other lane's coming right at you.
Yeah.
And that's my concern, is they either have to get some signage up there, blinking lights or something, because it just scares me that if it's snowy, if it's icy, if it's rainy, you're going to have somebody who's not familiar or is thinking about the old bridge, and you're going to have a head-on collision.
Like I almost did.
Yeah.
Seriously,
I just,
somebody's going to swing over out of old habits, and they're going to cause a head-on collision on that bridge.
I mean,
That's
don't get me
my prediction.
wrong. I am happy the bridge is up. I'm excited about it because
I'm not happy it's built. I'm not happy it's a toll. It's a toll because we're Democrats. We have to pay tolls because we're Democrats. If we live in another part of the state, that bridge is rebuilt as a freeway, which is BS.
I'm with you. I mean, it became Mitch's. Remember, he had Mitch's detour.
Mitch's detour, which was
Daniel's detour, which was ridiculous.
It had like you had to go across train tracks that were always busy. You had to go
right
across
by the mill.
You had to go across a drawbridge that was lifted quite often. The Daniel's detour, we called it, was like a 15-minute.
It was a
instead
joke.
of 1 or 2 minutes, it was a 15-minute
At
route.
least sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes it was longer than that.
I say this as a Republican, but Indiana Republicans downstate, what the hell?
They just
What difference are they from Democrats?
It's punitive against Democrats in Indiana. It's
No.
punitive.
Don't vote for them.
I've never seen a state Republican that saw a tax they didn't like. Every time I open the paper, it's like, these are Republicans?
Go ahead
What's
and
going on?
do a toll.
Hey,
It's a use tax.
But I want to jump in here real quick because there was a thing in the chat from Jim Wolf that actually teared me up a little bit, and I don't even have a heart. But he has a story in the chat. Leukemia hit close to home, and he actually just donated $500.
Thank you,
guys.
Jim.
That's awesome, Jim.
Yeah, we've
sweet.
been watching the.
Thank you very much,
The
Jim.
donations
Jim Wolf.
rise on
Yeah.
the
Super fan
website.
of the show, top fan of the show. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Jim.
that's
It's a
incredible,
sad
man. Thank
story.
you.
It really is, and I really appreciate it. And I'm going to keep on hitting it on this show until we raise $10,000 because we could easily do that, and $10,000 will make a huge difference to this family. It'll last them, I imagine, a couple months of just extra money, which they badly need right now. Can you imagine taking your daughter every single day to leukemia treatments? How hard that would be.
But also in a pandemic.
In a pandemic.
She can't go anywhere.
Right.
Like people
And then,
can't
by the way,
work.
on
It's-
top of that, they also lost another sibling in their family. Can you imagine how horrible this 2020 has been for this family? And all I'm trying to do is raise $10,000 for them. So please help us.
Yep, the link.
Yeah.
Lindsay put the link up. We'll also make sure to put the link up on our Twitter page and other
Our
social
Facebook
media and our
page, for
Facebook
sure.
page. So
We are over $4,000 now.
nice.
Tom.
Keep
Thank
it
you,
going,
everybody. Thank
Keep
you
it
so
going,
much.
everybody.
We're going to get there, I promise you. And
Marinko donate.
I haven't even made my donation yet. It's going to be significant. And then Kevin's going to put us over the top with his $5,000 donation. So I love.
Thank you.
So much, Ms. Sursick.
I'm
and Kevin
glad
Smith
Steve's
and-
working right now.
Like Kevin, you're so generous with your $5,000 donation. I appreciate it so much. Like it's above what I thought you were going to do by far. So that's
thank
wonderful.
you.
Yeah.
I have to start. I don't make a lot of money doing this podcast. I should be billing
Really?
someone right now.
Hey,
Should
Pete
be settling a case.
Buttigieg made $150,000 off his podcast.
Let's
What's
go.
up? What's
Buy
going
me
on
out.
here?
You can have a new caboose for $140,000.
Dude, I'm in here making the magic happen. Nobody else is. Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Yeah. We had a fire in Whiting. Did you see that? big
yeah,
one.
I also
Big one.
here's
Paul
what
Goddard was there. I was watching.
Here's
Yeah.
what I don't get. Why does it always say when there? It always seems like there's a fire in Whiting. It says East Chicago was there and Hammond was there and blah blah. I mean,
Yeah, it's mutual aid. We have these agreements with our surrounding cities where, if especially like a smaller fire department like Whiting, where if they're fighting a fire, they're usually overwhelmed because it's such a small force that we would, if we didn't compliment them, if we didn't supplement them with our firefighters, it would not be neighborly, A, and B, the fire may get out of control. But
Well,
it begs the question, I think.
that's neighborly of you.
It is neighborly of me, right? And like when Whiting needed water, a freshwater hookup, they used to get it through BP. They came to Hammond and said, Hammond, would you give us water? Would you sell us water? And we're like, Whiting, if I give you water, that's less water I could sell to Illinois, and I could sell it in Illinois for 6 times what I sell it to Whiting for. But we still did it because we're good neighbors.
That was neighborly of you.
We hooked up to Whiting at our cost, and we sold Whiting water, right? And now we're getting sued.
That was
by-
under Mayor Joe.
Right. Now we're getting sued by Whiting.
Under Mayor Joe.
Over water, funny enough. And so, like, Whiting, while they're suing us, says, hey, Hammond Fire Department, can you come out here and on a mutual aid and help us put out this fire?
Well, you wouldn't think twice.
And we did.
Well, sure.
But
yeah.
don't think that doesn't cross my mind, is we're out there putting out a fire in Whiting, helping with
And using your
Hammond
resources.
firefighters, with Hammond taxpayer money, and we're out there helping Whiting Fire put out a fire. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, these guys are suing the crap out of us right now, and we're out there, like, helping them put out a fire in their city. Don't think that thought doesn't cross my mind.
Well, good job by the Hammond FD.
Good job by the Whiting FD, Hammond FD, and I know East Chicago
Chicago FD,
firefighters.
yeah.
By the way, East Chicago firefighters are getting screwed a special kind of way by their mayor right now. Are out there putting out the fire too.
You've got your fire department. Look at you. You're like representing HFD.
I am representing. I love the fire department.
Nice.
I love all fire departments.
There's not a single person in the world who doesn't like a firefighter.
I like them even more.
Yeah.
I like them
I
even
think
more.
they're like a universally loved
Or hated.
profession.
If firemen hate you, they universally hate you.
Mayor,
too.
we've
well,
got
that's
it.
fine with
But
me.
hold on, I want to go. I love
Usually
firemen
thank you.
because firemen were so big for me during my congressional campaign. Across the Northwest Indiana region, I was endorsed by firemen. So I may wear the red a lot, but, you know.
Appreciate it.
I love them.
We
They're great
appreciate
people.
them. You know what? We've got a guest. We were waiting. Mark Schocke's out waiting in the green room.
This
So
is
let's
going to be
do
a
our-
big show, by the way. For those of you that aren't familiar, it's sort of a, let's go ahead. I know Kevin wants to move in, and we'll go ahead. Lindsay, why don't you go out there and grab the councilman and bring him in while we're doing commercials, if that's all right.
Yeah, big viewership jump. I think they're eager
Everyone's
to-
waiting. They're
to
done
hear
with us.
What's
Can we get Mark Schocke in here?
they
so
know
we
the
can
guests
stop
come on at
listening to you?
8. That's when they tune
That's
in.
when we get a jump every week.
All right. Thank you to it's season 2, episode 7. Thank you to our sponsors, Misprint Printing, with both Munster and Hammond locations. Rick Baltensberger and his team are there for absolutely all of your printing needs. Hey, Councilman, how are you doing? Nice to see you, sir.
What's up? Thank you.
Don't forget a Valentine's Day poster or card for your Valentine. Banner and signs of all sizes, from wrapping cars to business cards. No job is too big or too small. Call Rick or Teresa at 219-836-2517.
Midwest Air Duct Cleaning. Are your allergies going crazy? Is your furnace just not as effective as it was last winter? Your air ducts may need a cleaning. For quality and affordable air duct cleaning, contact Marinko. I see you, Marinko, on our chat at 219-671-8868. That's 671-8868, or at MidwestAirDuctCleaning.com for an estimate. Mention Left of Center for a 10% discount, and they also have discounts for seniors, first responders, and veterans.
Metropolitan Steel is a proud union contractor and AISC Advanced Certified Erector with over 60 years of combined experience serving the Chicagoland area. All of Metropolitan Steel's work is performed to exact project specifications, engineered procedures, and code requirements. For more information, call us at 708-474-2072. Ask for Red. Great man. Redstone.
Latitude Commercial is a full-service commercial real estate brokerage and property management firm specializing in northern Indiana and the Chicago suburbs. Local tenants and national developers have benefited from Latitude's experience in the commercial real estate market. When you select Latitude Commercial, you get Chicagoland expertise with worldwide marketing and networking ability. Whether you're a developer looking to sell, a tenant looking to expand, an investor looking to purchase, or an owner in need of property management services, Latitude can help. Contact Latitude at 219-864-0200 or at LatitudeCo, that's latitudeco.com, so they can get to work for you.
Hey, Lindsay, be ready for your part after the true commercial, okay?
You
Wake
want
up,
me to
Lindsay.
do the introduction at the end of the show?
No.
We want to do you.
I want you to remind the huge audience. Councilman Schocke brought in a big audience, so I'm appreciative.
We want to thank him
the
so we get
councilman
new
being here.
subscribers, so be
Yeah.
ready.
True Barbecue in Munster. You don't have to go to Chicago to find good food and a fine dining experience. True Barbecue in Munster has all of that and more. Stop by and take a look at our menu full of barbecue favorites with some new twists on old classics. Choose a drink from our extensive list of whiskey, like Kevin's Go-To, a Woodford Double Oak on the rocks, or stick with one of your favorites, like Mayor Tom's Vodka with a muddled lime. Located at 8940 Calumet Avenue in Munster. Come visit us and enjoy true barbecue. Councilman, did you know what a muddled lime was?
So you just smash a lime, right?
He did know what a muddled
Look
lime
at
was.
that.
I did not.
He's a classy man.
I did not.
Thank you for-
I imagined what it was.
Thank
but
you for making this show more professional. We appreciate you coming here with a tie. And
Look at you, man.
Well, I do have a deposition later, so
Do
it's
you?
a little
There you
bit of
go.
an excuse,
Nice to see you,
so-
Councilman.
Yeah,
Thanks for
having
coming.
me.
make sure you get that mic right up to you.
Oh, yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
there.
And
Move
then
that
John
mic
always
around.
says, pull right up to that so you can be
All
on.
right.
Right. And Lindsay,
I
I feel like I'm doing the limbo. Or
Let's
something.
make him really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
yeah.
He's a handsome guy.
No,
People
put your-
want to see him.
Put your right hand in the air.
But you didn't say Simon Says, so
That's right.
Put
I
your
don't
leg
know.
over Tom's.
Yeah.
well, all right.
It's awkward,
Whoa.
but this
No,
is what we do.
It's getting interesting already.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast.
Hey,
though.
Lindsay, why don't you go ahead? We have a big audience, and some of them may be wondering like how they could see more of this great show, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Like, where can I
Welcome.
see more of this?
You're listening to Left of Center, where we cover everything from politics to important events of the day in the Midwest and the nation, all while having way too much fun while doing it. And if you can't get enough of us, follow us on Facebook at Left of Center Podcast or on Twitter at LockPod, LOCPOD. If you can't listen in live, download our episodes from the Apple Podcast or Spotify app and enjoy our show at a crystal clear 832 kilohertz per second. Just search Left of Center and look for our red and blue logo. You can also subscribe and rate us on the Apple Podcast and Spotify apps. Also, if you own a business or you're running for office or you just want to give us money, you can send us an email at leftofcenterpod@gmail.com and we can get that ad sponsorship started for you right away.
Thanks,
You
Lindsay.
memorized that, Lindsay.
Yeah, I know, right?
You're
That's
getting,
pretty awesome.
you know
It's
your
almost
lines.
as if I do theater.
You're a thespian.
She's like,
No,
our
I'm a
favorite
thespian.
thespian.
what'd you call my daughter?
thespian
Oh, okay, never mind.
I'm a thespian.
with a new last name?
Yeah.
You know,
She's
let me do a quick intro of our guest. Mark Schocke is a councilman from Highland, newly elected. I shouldn't say newly anymore. You got a year in now. Elected in 2019.
2019.
Republican councilman from Highland. He's also a trial lawyer. I know that because we do a little bit of the same work. And we got a lot to talk about.
Councilman,
with him.
you work at law office of David Gladish, right?
I do.
Yeah. How long you been with Dave?
Just over 3 years, maybe as of September, so a little over 3
Nice.
years.
Yeah, Dave's a great guy. I
Yeah.
know him well. I've
Let's
known
get
him
back to
since-
jury trials.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously, it's man, I live for it. It's my Super Bowl when I.
Do you
get
have
up
any
there.
specialty like in the law, like or
So-
just trial work? in
Yeah,
general?
pretty much trial work. Although lately I've been doing a lot of appeals, which is kind of interesting.
Really?
Yeah, in
Wow.
the past couple of years, it's really been
That'll keep
coming
you
on.
busy.
So yeah, it's
Yeah.
been fun. I actually have an oral argument coming up in March, which. If you guys are probably aware, there's not a whole lot of oral arguments these days. It's like a very small percentage of all that go to the appeals. So I'm pretty excited. I've got an amicus brief with the Trial Lawyers Association
Nice.
as well. So it's going to be interesting.
Congrats.
Yetla
man.
does a
That's
great
cool.
job with their amicus committees. That's
Yeah.
exciting.
Oh,
You
they're-
know,
they're good.
a lot of people out there are probably wondering where we're going to head with this. This is even if you're not familiar with Northwest Indiana, which I know a lot of our viewers aren't, this is an interesting dilemma we're going to bring up. It's about a community that's transitioning to a newer community, and like what happens when you have something that's real nostalgic and sort of moving forward. Like growing pains of a community is something that Highland's going through right now in regards to a farm, believe it or not. And we want to get into that with the councilman because the councilman's right in the middle of a pretty large fight, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's still going.
And the whole region's paying attention to what's going on right now in Highland, and it's an interesting dilemma that the town council and the council people are finding themselves in, and we wanted to get into this, and I appreciate the councilman for coming by.
Yeah, I think it's a interesting. I mean, like you said, Tom. One of the things, and I know we're going to get into the details about this, but it's almost like it's a microcosm for what happens in a lot of communities around the country, not just even the state or even the region, and that's that you have to deal with. The history where there's a lot of emotion of a community and redevelopment that is potentially the future of the community, and how you deal with that, and do you do it quickly, do you do it slowly, and how do you get into it? And that's why this story, I think, covers a lot of ground, not just locally, but anywhere you live.
So you grew up in Highland, I imagine, right?
Yep.
Highland High School?
Yep. Highland 03.
So do you have
Trojans?
Yeah.
So do you have good memories of the farm? I mean, I know that you're one of the big champions for keeping Scheeringa Farms the way it is. Do you have memories as a child going to the farm? Your family went to the farm, stuff like that?
Sure. I would say in the last few years, it's actually kind of turned into something a little bit more family friendly than it once was, because I know back in the old days it was just kind of like a farm stand. Now
Right.
they've got the hay rides, they've
Right.
got the petting zoo and all that stuff. So I think they've seen other farms like Fair Oaks, for example, and they're kind of like, maybe we can replicate some of that.
Orchard or
Yeah, right.
County Line.
Exactly. And they're trying to replicate some of that
That's
in
smart.
Highland, which is cool, and it's really good marketing. So I don't know that was exactly there when I was a kid, but I remember going to the farm stand, and I remember growing up 3-4 blocks away from the farm. Some of the Scheeringas were my friends, and so I'd go over and we'd hang out.
Is that how to pronounce it? Scheeringa?
So if you're Dutch, I guess it's Scheeringa, but I've always said Scheeringa. I'm just trying to be respectful.
I say
you know,
Scheeringa, my butcher in it.
Probably, but I'm not exactly
Really?
Dutch either.
Right,
I don't know.
right.
So
Scheeringa.
we
I'm
could
not-
ask.
Scheeringa?
We could ask.
Scheeringa.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful when
No,
I
no.
mispronounce our name, obviously. This is an
Our
important
apologies
issue.
in advance.
Not that matters, but I know Councilman's a Republican, which is great, and we appreciate you being here. Obviously, John also finds himself as Republican. Do you mind taking a detour real quick before we get into the farm issue? I read an interesting stat yesterday. Kevin and I were actually looking at it. It was 17s. They said 17% of the people in America right now view themselves as Trump Republicans. 17% of America views themselves as party establishment Republicans. 17% of America views themselves as Biden Democrats, and 17% of America views themselves as progressive Dems, like AOC,
And everybody
Warren,
else is,
and then everybody else is just sort of in the middle.
independent.
Wow.
Right?
Interesting. Very interesting.
So I find myself, I'm looking at that. I think I would definitely fall under Biden Dem. which I consider more moderate.
Yeah, I think
Right.
I'm there with you. I'm not on the progressive wing for sure.
Lindsay, what do you find yourself in? I already pretty
Well,
much
we
know.
know.
Biden was not my first choice.
Right. So you're
He's a nice guy, but he was not.
are you
my first
progressive
choice.
Dem? You view yourselves
I
as?
wouldn't even say. I don't know.
Lindsay, you're
There's-
part of the squad.
You're part of the other.
I'm part of
She
the
like
squad.
the mitten guy.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
Bernie. I like the
That,
mitten guy.
that means you're the 17% progressive under
Well,
this.
I wouldn't even. I don't know, man.
John?
I don't know,
Ooh,
man.
put
After
him on the
this, I'm not
spot.
a.
Come on.
I don't know if I'm a Trump.
Really?
Guy. Man, it's tough.
He's a man without a country right
So,
now.
I wake up one morning and I'm like, God bless Trump. I wake up the next and I'm like, God, Trump screwed us.
God damn.
No, really, I'm so just disillusioned by the whole thing, man. Yeah. So
Councilman, how
I
about
don't know.
yourself? How do you,
I think I might be everyone else, actually.
Really? Really?
I mean, because
Yeah.
here's the deal. I've had a love-hate relationship with the Trump administration. You got to say it. You have, no matter how you feel about him, it was entertaining for 4 years. Right?
Without a doubt.
media
That's
loved
one
him.
way. That's one word to use.
But at the same time, look, he had some values. I really like the tax cuts, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I'll take the good. There's some bad too. So I mean,
Yeah.
A little bit.
obviously, the end was pretty traumatic and bad.
I don't want to be
Yeah.
associated with any of that. That's that's pretty ridiculous.
What do you think should happen to the people that actually went in the building? If you found out like a Highland police officer was in the building, how would you approach that?
Yeah, well, it would be a problem.
I agree with you, man. That's I actually was scouring those pictures looking.
Yeah, well, it's
like-
interesting because I used to be a congressional intern back in
I
college.
didn't know that.
Yeah, I
For
was
who?
with Steve Booyer. He was
yeah.
in
Yeah.
District
Yeah.
4 back
Uh-huh.
in the day.
District 4 is that like West Lafayette and South?
Yeah, West Lafayette, and then it was real gerrymandered all the way down
When
to, like,
Rokita had it, right? Or
Yep.
is that- yeah.
Well, it was Rokita had it right after Booyer. So I was in college at Purdue West Lafayette, and I got the internship through Steve Booyer. And it was a real gerrymandered district, but mostly Lafayette, a lot of White County, all that stuff. But yeah, so I was out there, and I recall the Capitol Police just being strapped. I mean, these guys were like, nobody messed with the Capitol Police. They had MP5s, if you're familiar with that. It's a submachine gun that's like real crazy. They had, Glocks. They were locked, loaded, ready to go. They would, use the mirrors to go and check under cars coming in and out. I mean, it was a pretty professional situation. So when I heard that somebody had stormed the Capitol, I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Right.
These guys are like there's Secret Service and the Capitol Police. I mean, I look at them as almost equals, and I'm thinking, how the heck did they get overrun?
Yeah.
I think it's just a matter
It's a
of
matter of numbers.
yeah, it's crazy. I couldn't believe it.
That's unbelievable. I agree with you.
Well, we want to get back to this Scheeringa Farm
Yeah.
issue, and let me
Yeah.
just I want to just put a little bit of background as I understand it, and you tell me, Mark, if I'm wrong on this, feel free to interrupt me.
Okay.
So the Scheringas have a piece of property that they farm already and own.
Yes.
And the property at issue is this 19 acres that they didn't own, but they leased to farm it from a company called Griffland.
Yeah, for something like 50 years.
Okay, for 50 some years.
So they have a piece of land that they do own, and then there's another land they farmed for generations. 19 acres, you said?
19 acres that they've had for 50 years.
Yeah, something like 50 years. I don't know exactly the numbers, but it's been a long period of
Yeah,
time.
generations.
Yeah,
So-
they've had a long-term lease, basically.
So then at some point, either, and I guess it depends who you listen to, right? Like the Griffland folks say, and I think Jeff Strack's the spokesperson for the Griffin
Right.
team. They say, oh, we didn't have a deal of right of first refusal, and the Scheeringa said, well, it was a handshake deal or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
I mean, there's nothing in writing saying there was a right of first refusal. Is that fair?
Pretty much, yeah. And this brings you back to property law.
Yeah, I was
from
about
law
to
school,
say, this is the type of stuff you read in law school.
Exactly. And
Right.
so if you don't have a contract, basically, you're out. You
Right.
know?
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
like, if
right.
it's not in writing, it didn't happen.
Statute
more or
of
less.
frauds for real estate,
Statute of
right?
frauds,
Yeah.
exactly.
Statute of frauds.
There it is.
Yeah.
So, okay, so then at some point, either the land through Griffin is either offered to the town or put on the market, and there's a contract actually written and signed
Right.
from a company in Iowa that wants to build a senior living facility on this property.
Correct, yeah. And
Okay.
and that happened, I think 2019, 2018, something like that. That contract occurred.
So as you're coming onto the town council, this is brewing.
yeah, exactly. And in fact, this was one of my main campaign points.
Well,
right?
it was
Because
so it was actually being talked about in the campaign in 2019.
It was, and it was on part of my literature, so you can go back and check on that. But I live just west of this proposed development.
Just west.
Like you're talking, I could probably maybe 100,
My aunt
200
lives
yards
in your district.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
The
that's
Browns.
cool.
Yeah, Gina Brown, Jerry Brown.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I forgot
got
what street it
voters.
is. They live right by Strike Van Til there. So
Cool.
Yeah, they're right
Yeah.
behind there.
Yeah.
That's
So this property then is under contract with it's a private land
Sure.
agreement, right?
It is.
But in order for the senior development to come in, they need a rezone.
Right.
And it's currently zoned single family dense or something.
It's R1. So
R1.
Yeah,
okay,
residential.
so single family.
R1A, I think.
R1A. Does that mean that you could have apartments there?
No, it means
Okay.
you could have single-family homes. You could probably get away with duplexes. I'm not 100%
right.
sure on that.
As long as you live in it, kind of.
Right,
Right.
exactly. But you can't have an apartment complex.
Okay.
Right.
And so to get to the reason it's before the town council is that they need a change in zoning from R1A to planned unit development or whatever.
Yeah, it's R3 PUD.
There you go.
Right.
planned
Which is
unit development.
multiple family residences. I mean, like apartment complexes, things like that.
It could be. I mean, in this sense, it depends who you talk to, right?
Right.
So an R3 would typically be an apartment complex, but since this is R3 PUD, there's a lot more discretion. PUD being planned unit development, a lot more discretion for the municipality to determine what can actually go there. So in this sense, they want to have basically a retirement facility, memory care kind of thing, age limited, and then I think there's also some kind of like assisted living type.
Kind of like we see around the region.
Exactly.
Hartsfield Village, you see Symphony. I mean, they're all over. They're starting to. And does Highland have one of those at this time?
So we do not.
Okay.
But, in the locus of Highland, there are whatever, like 12. I
Right.
mean, there's quite a
Right.
few. If you
Right.
go to Hartsfield,
Right.
and
Sure.
Munster,
But not in
Schererville.
Highland. per
Correct.
se. Right.
Correct.
Right.
All right. So then to get a rezone, and I don't want to get too deep here because we're getting into the law,
Right.
but
Sure.
you got to go to the Plan Commission.
Yep.
And then the Plan Commission gives a recommendation to the Town Council,
Right.
who can vote on it.
But
Correct.
the interesting thing about this, from my perspective, and from the councilman's perspective, is the planning commission is usually appointed with people chosen by the town council, right?
Exactly.
It is chosen by the town council.
Yes,
Seven?
they're appointed by the town council, and then sometimes they're executive appointments by the town council president.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
So
there's a
like
little mix.
typically the town council and the planning commission would be on the same page because it's appointed by the same people, so to speak, right?
Typically, although it's interesting, so the way that you do appointments is that it's like staggered, just
Right,
like
right.
senators in
Right.
Congress, right?
So you still have people that are holdovers.
We have holdovers from the last go round, and so there was quite a bit of a sea change in this last election in
Gotcha.
2019.
Gotcha.
Flipped to the R,
Right.
and so now we've got
Wow.
holdovers from the old school, plus
Wow.
we've got new people.
I didn't
Right.
realize that. So there's a battle going on with the old regime versus the new regime that's taken over in Highland, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know if battle's the right
Right,
word,
right,
but
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's
just
definitely
friction.
there's something going on. Yeah, exactly. And it's very important for us, I think, as the council to make sure that the people in these appointed positions are on the same page with the elected officials, and sometimes that doesn't happen. And
Gotcha.
I think that's
Yeah.
what's happening in this case.
Totally agree.
And so the Plan Commission voted 6-1 favorable to go to the council. This is the first go round now.
Yes.
And then it went 3-2.
So hold on, let me go.
Yep.
So 6-1, the planning commission passes the rezone change
Or no, they give a recommendation to the council.
to the
that they're in
council.
favor of the
Recommendation.
rezone,
So typically, the council would just say yes, we agree with the planning commission and go through with it.
which
right?
they did 3-2.
Right.
But then there was a glitch in the notice, I heard.
Correct.
And it doesn't just happen in Hammond.
Right.
A glitch in the notice.
We've had two glitches, and we had to do 2 new meetings because of 2 glitches that we've had. So I don't feel like.
And
No,
so
it happens.
And so I went back to the Plan Commission, and I heard that was it recently, maybe even this week, that they voted 6-1 again to forward it to the council.
So the vote totals are a little bit different, I'll say.
Okay,
So
sure.
I don't know if it was 6-1. I actually think it was 6-0 because the dissenter actually didn't make the meeting in
Okay.
the initial go round. Then it was 5-1-1 with 1 no and 1 abstention.
Okay.
So I mean, it doesn't really change things math-wise, right?
But it's still back in front of. It's going to
Exactly.
be back in front of you guys.
Exactly. It's going to be back in front of us, and presumably that's going to happen, I think, February 8th. Although, interestingly...
That's ours is coming back on February
really?
8th also. Yeah.
So, but interestingly, last night, so I'm at the council meeting, and there's a resident he's a frequent commenter. I don't know if you guys have frequent, like,
Oh, yeah.
residents.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I don't think so.
Interested in
Never heard of
government,
that.
yeah.
Never heard of that happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have ours. Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody has theirs.
And
right.
it's funny because I actually...
frequent commenters.
You kind of
a nice
like
way of putting it.
you build this like relationship with the frequent commenter. You're like, hey, like I actually kind of like, after a while you're like, hey, how you doing, Bob? I mean, it's cool. Anyway, but he mentioned that there was a plan commission meeting last Wednesday, I believe, that he tried to get the Zoom information because we post all of our agendas online, and he couldn't access it. And I said, what's going on here? So I actually went onto the Highland website, and I couldn't actually access it. So I'm thinking, okay, great. Is there another notice issue, right?
boy.
I mean, I don't.
That's all you need, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So, but in my defense, I guess that's sort of a good thing for the, punching
Right.
it down
Right,
the road.
right.
But
So
you know,
more
hey,
issue, right?
So it gets back, and it's going to be in front of the council on February 8th. And so the way it went last time, at least, you had 2 Democrats and 1 Republican voting in favor of the zone change,
Correct.
and 2 Republicans, you included in the minority, voting against the zone change.
exactly.
All right, so tell us kind of why you voted against the zone change and where you're at currently.
Sure. I mean, so there's a lot of reasons, right? I can sit here and probably spend the next 3 hours if I really wanted to. But, I mean, for me, it comes down to heritage, tradition, what Highland was, right? And so Highland started out as a farming community.
Right.
Like back in the day, like way before I was born, it was just farms. That's all it was.
Right.
Now we've got 1, maybe arguably 2 farms in Highland left. You've got the Zanstra farm that's technically over by Kennedy Avenue, but it's really not a working farm. I mean, they've got a greenhouse and stuff, but they don't have the growing that you have over at the Scheeringa farm.
I went to school with their daughter. I went to
Good for
Ileana.
you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm an Ileana guy. A lot of Dutch people there.
Awesome. Yes, and there's still a lot of Dutch people in Highland. It's kind of a
I'm
traditional.
trying to picture Zanstra Farm. Is that down by the railroad tracks?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
gotcha.
Yeah, there's a nice
Right.
little greenhouse there,
Gotcha.
and
Yeah.
but it's not really like a working farm, kind of like the Scheeringas actually grow, tomatoes
Right.
and all that good stuff, like
Right.
right in my backyard, which is awesome.
Right.
So I look at this and I say, all right, this is the last vestige of the farmland, our heritage that we have. Do we really want to rezone this into another senior living facility? I mean, I don't see it as a value to the community. I see the value of keeping it the way it is,
Right.
and especially because they've kind of gone on in the last couple of years to make the hay rides, to make the petting zoo, to make it really community friendly. If you go there in the fall on a Saturday, I mean, you're going to be in line for their homemade donuts for like 2 hours. I mean, it's,
Councilman, I had a good friend of mine tell me yesterday when they found out you were coming on the show that they take their kids there every year.
Oh, yeah.
They're
And that's
like,
on
we go
the-
there every year. Like
Exactly.
our kids go there on the hay rides,
Right.
and we go to get corn, and it's it's like a family trip all the time. They go out to Scheeringa
And Mark,
Farms.
if Councilman, so that part of the donuts and everything, that is part of the part that they already own and use for the most part?
So yes and no. All
Okay.
right. So the donuts, I think, is technically on their land, right? And then same thing with the petting zoo and all that. But they're going to have to curtail a lot of the rides, a lot of the hay rides, a lot of that stuff. Plus, they're going to basically have to truck in produce. So it's kind of like an artificial farm at that point, right? And so, I mean, they could grow a small patch of something, but at some point it becomes not very economically viable to do that.
So like the whole farm, you were talking about 19 acres in question, but how many acres is the whole farm? Do you know?
I think you'd have to ask the Scheeringas on that. But
So
I mean,
is it the bigger part is 19?
I believe so,
So
yes.
it's like probably maybe like 30 acres in total, and they're losing 19.
That would be
something
my
like-
guess.
I thought I
don't
read
know.
somewhere that they're comparable in size.
Oh, is it? So
Yeah,
it's like they're losing half of their farming.
Sure,
ish.
call it that.
Right. Gotcha.
So, it's interesting you brought up the tradition and heritage, because I think back, and, Tom and I are a little bit older, I think, than you.
Sure.
And I remember,
That
like,
was nice.
I shouldn't have
Thank you. I
agreed
appreciate
too
it.
much.
So
You're like, oh, really? I didn't know that.
I remember, I remember when I was a kid, Twin Creek in Munster was a farm. Park West, White Oak Estates, those were farms.
Yeah.
You had Jansen's farm stand right across from Wicker Park. When I
Dyer
was a kid.
was all farms.
Dyer was all farms.
Yeah,
Hessville.
exactly.
I mean, if we're not old enough for this,
Right.
but I mean, Hessville was a farm.
Right.
So I mean, there is this. Yeah, for sure. There's tradition, heritage, but I can tell you this. I know that from the mayor, we've seen this. You don't get a $40 million development that rolls into town every day.
Right.
Oh, I get that.
And so,
Right.
how do you? to the people that say like, well, Mark, this is important for the town, or what about the seniors that want to stay in their town and they don't want to move to another facility outside of Highland?
Yeah, I get that. And, I hear the argument, but, I've got aging parents in Highland. They're both 74 years old. They live in the home that I grew up on, 3 blocks from where I live now.
That's awesome.
And so, but the deal is, they're pretty recalcitrant folks, right? You're not gonna get them out of that house.
Right.
I mean, they want, if anything,
Gotcha.
there might be somebody that comes in and kind of takes care of them at some point, but they're not gonna leave their house. And I find that that's a lot of what I hear in Highland. There's not a whole lot of people that are like, hey, yeah, I want to be in the old folks home down the street because I want to stay in Highland, right? I mean, that's not the calculus that people go through. So I don't really buy that argument like, oh, I want to stay in Highland, because the reality is, like, nobody wants to go to an old folks home, whether it's in Cherville or Munster or Highland. I mean, it doesn't matter. They don't want to go. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there are people like that, and I'm sure there are people the other way, because like when we did one in Hammond, it filled up pretty quick.
Yeah.
It just depends. I think you're right, and I don't think I think my parents are more like yours.
I agree.
They're like, I'm not going.
There's no way in hell my dad would go to a home like that.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Can I ask you a couple questions from the internet? Do you mind?
Yeah, go for it.
First off, Andrea in the comments said there's a huge empty lot where the Ultra used to be.
Yeah.
That could be the senior care housing center. I mean, we all know the piece of property they're talking about. That came up during the YMCA issue with the Wicker Park. Is right across the street from the Wicker Park is an Ultra parking lot. It's got to be 10 acres of empty land, right?
Exactly.
Underutilized.
Oh
anyway.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's not empty. That's the problem. Like if it was empty, I think it would be developed, in a heartbeat, right? But unfortunately, you've got this structure on it that's aging, and
costs a lot to knock that down.
Right, and the owner of it, last I heard, wanted something in the neighborhood of $25 million, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like,
and we're dealing with different owners, different parties.
Exactly, and so you can't really force them to sell it for less than that. But the reality is, like, nobody's going to touch it at that amount of money, especially if they have to go in there, take down a building, take down asphalt, all that other stuff. So that's going to add, I don't know how much to the cost of the whole project, but it becomes cost prohibitive at some point.
And it's not like the town can just run in and say, oh, here's $10 million to help here's an incentive for you.
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, you could theoretically, redevelopment could go over there and, start to suggest, hey, maybe we buy it or something like that. But our redevelopment department doesn't have, $30 million. So
not many do.
Exactly. So it's just unfortunate. I wish that we could drive them over there, because I think that would be a good fit. I think, because frankly, if you had an old folks facility and then some kind of way to get to Wicker Park every day, I mean, that would be ideal.
Really
right?
cool.
I mean, if you think about it.
I see a bridge
there would
over
be,
Indianapolis
or a tunnel,
Boulevard.
or there's a tunnel real close.
There
All
is
you
a
have to do is
tunnel,
go back behind the development.
Oh, that's
You
right.
Go underneath. Right?
So it would fit like a glove, but I
Right.
think unfortunately the economic realities make that not possible.
Hey, Councilman, when we announced that you're coming on the show, there was a lot of people nervous about you coming on. Do you know that?
I did know that.
Did you,
Yeah.
did you
I
scare
was
that many
surprised.
people?
I was surprised.
People were like, hey,
We were
man.
happy, of course. We like
Yeah.
creating controversy.
No,
but,
no, it's fine.
We do.
No,
There was a lot of
Not-
people that
not
were
us.
nervous about you coming on.
I got a
Sassy.
few phone calls and a few text messages like, "What are you doing going on the McDermott show?" And I'm like, "Look, man, like he's not the devil. Relax."
Thank you, thank you.
Wow.
You're not?
So-
I'm hiding my horns right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Put
yeah.
those horns down.
Yeah.
No, I mean we're not talking about too controversial stuff, right?
No,
We're happy to have you on.
So,
It's a farm.
Hey,
are you doing?
Dodie asked a real good question also,
Sure.
and this is going to the other side. Dodie asked why the family, and this is one of the issues, is allegedly the Scheeringa family had an opportunity to purchase this land through an option a long time ago, and they didn't follow through. So Dodie asked why the family didn't purchase at any point in the last 60 years. Do you?
yeah,
If you know.
So I'm not sure that I know why they haven't in the last 60 years, but I do know that recently they actually did put in an offer to purchase the property at the same price as the developer, right? And so, that's an interesting thing, because now you've got kind of a contract in place.
Yeah.
And now you've got a new offer of the exact money. And I think, everyone's heartstrings are saying, like, do the right thing, make this like the end of, Miracle on 34th Street or
Right.
It's a Wonderful Life,
Right.
where everybody brings in a few bucks and,
Everybody
we
wants
get
a
it
happy
done.
ending.
But, I don't know that the reality is ever going to allow that. But, they actually, the Scheeringas sold another larger parcel of property that they owned, I think, in Maryville, a different farm, in order to raise the money
Wow.
to try and save the Highland farm.
Wow.
Yeah, so I heard
So
that there was
that's-
originally the Scheringas offered 1/3 or 240 or something, and now the contract's 800 something,
Wow.
or they're under contract. Now I don't know if that's true, not true, Mark. I don't know if you know or not.
I don't know about any prior offers, but I know that the current offer is essentially congruent with what the developer
but
was.
there's a contract.
There is
that's
a
in
contract.
place.
Now, arguably, we can get into the legal weeds. I've read through that contract. There's a provision in there that actually talks about initially the whole plan. I guess when the old council was doing this project, I think the old council was talking with the developer, trying to kind of court them and bring them. Of course, I wasn't part of that, so I
Yeah.
can't really speak to it.
Right.
That said, there was a thought that there was going to be a new town garage as part of this 19-acre parcel. And if you look at the sales contract, it actually says that, you know, I think Griffin can refuse to approve or refuse to go through the deal if there isn't a town garage there. Well, now there's no plans for a town garage. So theoretically, that could be one way out. I mean,
But again, and I don't want to. What I want to try to avoid is people saying like, "Well, why doesn't the town council do something?" I mean, that's up to the parties in the contract.
Exactly. And unfortunately, I mean, the only thing that I could do as a councilman is say that it's not appropriate to be rezoned this way. And, you know, I don't think it's appropriate to be rezoned that way because you've got a gym and a grocery store, and then you've got residential. I don't see how an elderly home or a memory care facility actually fits in the neighborhood imprint and in the commercial corridor that you've got there. It just doesn't seem to be a logical flow, in my opinion.
Do you think single-family homes would fit there?
Well, it would because it's zoned that way.
Right. I'm just wondering, well, because you called it a commercial corridor, so I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
like, do you think that it is appropriate?
Well, I think that it would work better than a retirement home for sure, because you do have a lot of single family homes in the general vicinity. If you go up and down Cline Avenue,
For sure.
single family homes, so it would
Right.
work.
So let's play this out. So let's say it goes before the council, and let's say there's a flip in the votes, and all of a sudden it's 3-2 against or 4-1 against the rezone. Rezone fails. Right. The options are the petitioner can appeal, or they just say, you know what, we're out of Highland, we're done, and then all of a sudden that property would go back on the market. There's nothing saying that it never necessarily has to sell to the Scheeringas, right?
Right.
Griffin could hold on to it
If they want to.
and if they sold it to the Scheeringas could theoretically farm it.
Yep.
Or they could in 5 years say, oh, well,
We're building single family
we're
homes.
I'm building a retirement community.
They could, and that would suck, and it would make me look terrible. But you know,
Right.
this is
I don't think they're going
I
to do
don't want
that.
it. That's just a hypothetical. Then. I don't want that to happen.
No, but I mean, hey, you know, there is the argument out there. I mean, like what you're saying, Kevin, though, the argument I've heard is, you know, this is a private transaction. This is a private deal. Why is the government getting its nose in it? You know, and to a, you know, as a Republican, I get that argument, right? I really do.
But you're being asked about your opinion on a reason.
You don't have a
like,
choice.
That's your role.
Exactly.
You're in it because of what's in front of you.
Exactly.
You didn't ask for it to come, right?
Right.
No, I didn't. Well, I sort of signed up for this whole thing,
That's
but, yeah,
true.
in a sense. But yeah,
Hey, I had a situation that's similar to this with the old Wilmar Country Club. I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Yep.
It was assessed at $1.2 million when I took over as mayor. Obviously, I made a move on it, and we let Cabela's come in and develop that whole area. It's worth over $50 million assessed value right
There
now.
was a lot of tradition there.
Right.
A lot of heritage.
This gets into a question coming from Councilman Bernie, who put a question in. Councilman Bernie Zeman, great guy, I've known him a very long time, says the new development will bring in more tax dollars. How much is the predicted tax income with the new development? So
I think that was from Ed, but he
It's
mentioned
from Ed mentioning council.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's from Ed. But like, I imagine what they're saying is this new development will come in. It'll be worth $40 million. What's the assessed value of Scheeringa Farms now versus the extra revenue that'll come in if it's a retirement village?
Yeah, so that's an interesting point. I'm sure Griffin can calculate the numbers for you if you really wanted to know.
I'm sure he could. I'm sure he could.
But so here's the concern. Here's the concern that I actually have about that. Right. So there's certain incentives that Highland, before I even got on board on the council, have already promised to the developer. Right.
through a
And
development
so,
agreement.
Right. And so one of those things is they're going to redevelop. It's called Ernie Strack Drive. Like I don't know if
yeah.
this little
That's
road-
the
Yeah,
one
yeah,
that's
yeah,
just
yeah.
south.
Yep.
And
And
it goes between the grocery store
I always
and
thought that was
the farm.
private.
It is private.
Okay.
Okay. And so what
That's
the-
part of the development, right?
Yeah, part of the development is, or part of the contract is that Highland is going to, well, the developer is going to dedicate that street to Highland. Highland is going to put in a bunch of improvements on that street and then maintain it from now until perpetuity. So if you look at that, I've heard estimates on that being $500,000 to $800,000, something like that.
Initially.
So initially,
Okay.
that Highland's going to have to put on, plus maintenance going forward,
Sure.
you know, plowing,
Sure.
repaving, all that good stuff. So, you know, there is that. So if you think of that, we have to offset any tax revenue that we're going to propose, you know, that's going to come from this development to what we're putting into it in this, you know, $400,000 to $800,000 investment. So that's one thing. The other thing is, last year, as soon as I got, actually right after my election, before I was sworn in, the developer's like, well, you know, they wanted to talk about a TIF. And I'm like, whoa, guys, like, I'm not even like sworn in yet. What are we talking
Right,
about?
right.
And they were asking for, I think, like $3 million at that point in TIF money, which, you know, so that's tax increment financing. So you've got to put that into the whole calculus too. So, all right, are we going
Gotcha.
to realize
Makes
a gain if we're going to do a TIF?
Right.
So
You're not in the
Not
city
initially.
budget. No.
Exactly.
Until the debt's paid off.
Right. Well, debt or everything else. Like, you look at where Kennedy Park Apartments used to be, or River Park Apartments, and
Yep.
now it's Oxbow, right? So there was this like, well, I know initially, and these are different projects, so I don't want to compare
Thanks for
them.
Byway, by the way. Like, I really like. Yeah,
Hey, Highland
good
helped
stuff.
us with that, Councilman.
No, I know.
Highland loaned Hammond money when we needed it, and we paid it back, obviously, real quickly. But without Highland's help, that whole project could have fallen apart.
Yeah,
But
well,
the reason,
That's a true story.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah, and the reason I bring it up is just the fact, because you brought up TIF, right? So you've got this development that's generating no money except to pay the debt, right?
Right.
But now what we're seeing, right, over time, like we're at like year 10 or 12, all of a sudden there's extra money. Like we used it to build a new fire station.
Yep.
We helped the ice rink get
Yep.
built. And
Yep.
so I think you're right, Mark, that, and you have to take into account how long until we see something. But everybody has to be on board on the development, right? If everyone's on board on the development, then you say, oh, well, but in 8 or 10 years, we're going to start seeing some tax money that can help the town.
And I hope that's right, but if this does eventually go through and I end up losing, right? I hope that that's the case. I hope that we do see some revenue out of
Right.
it. But, I look at it, I don't know about the future of senior living facilities because there's a couple of things in my mind, right? You've got the baby boomers who are, basically aging rapidly. And right now you have a glut of them. But what happens when the baby boom is done, right? And if you actually look at some of the rates of fullness, I guess, at some of these facilities, like if you call around and you say, hey, Symphony, like how many people do you have? I've heard, 70% full, 60% full.
There's got to be turnover.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm thinking
nice.
Okay.
That's a nice way of putting it.
See, we got to keep the
We,
floor.
we expect vacancies soon.
Exactly.
Give me about a week. I think we'll have an apartment for you.
But I mean, if right now we're in the glut of it and they're only at 60 or 70% capacity, then, what happens 10 years from now when we don't have enough old people to go in there? The other thing that I'm sort of concerned about is what happens, just walk down this, for instance, with me. If one of these hospital groups like Franciscan or Community or whatever, these are nonprofit entities, right? What if they purchase up some of these things, right? Like what if they purchase this home 5 years from now, all right? Then they're now tax exempt.
Or they'll try to be.
Yeah, well, but
good point.
I think they are at that
point. That's
because
a good
they're
point.
a not-profit entity. And
What
I just
happens
gave
to
them a
the
bunch of
TIF?
TIF.
Yeah, man.
I hope the
That's
Highland
true.
Redevelopment Commission is listening.
That's
Put
true.
that in your development agreement.
That is not even a stretch.
Wow.
No.
How about, is there any type of control you have over the development? Let's say it starts off as a center, and then could they convert that over to some type of multi-unit housing, like apartments or something down the road?
I'd have to rezone it.
I
again.
think
Because
they have
would
to
be,
rezone it.
Well, they would. So there
Yeah.
would be some control on that.
There would be, is because it's a PUD, right? So I'm
Right,
sure that you'd have
gotcha.
to come back and amend that
Gotcha,
PUD in order
gotcha.
to do it. I've heard people, say that this is going to be the next Mansards or whatever,
Right, right.
which, because when I was a kid, the Mansards was like a really nice place.
I used to live
Oh,
in the
yeah.
Mansards
Yeah.
when I was a kid.
Well,
yeah.
when we were kids, Kennedy Park Apartments in River Park
Yeah.
was a
Oh,
nice
really?
place. My
Yeah.
dad lived there in the 60s. I mean,
So I'm not sure that that's a direct relation because it's a PUD. I'm not really sure that this could just turn into
Gotcha. They'd have to come back for help.
But
I agree.
still, I mean,
Would they have to come back with your proposal with, like, let's say some not-for-profit purchases? Would they have to come back? They probably wouldn't in that case, right? As long as they kept it consistent.
Yeah, as long as they kept it consistent with the use.
And they would blow away your TIF then.
I
Your
would think
TIF would
so.
be upside down because
Yeah,
they would be paying no property taxes. I tell you, Councilman, that's a legitimate fear.
So then the question I have is like, okay, so what can we do to amend this? Like, can I put some kind of covenant on the land that runs with land or something like that?
To me, it sounds like it's a development agreement
you know.
issue, and maybe it's something you can do there through the redevelopment commission. We've done that. Like, for example, we make sure that when people come in for projects, they can't appeal their taxes.
Okay.
To lower it, so
we
we
had
have
that.
less.
Sure. We learned the hard way on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Potash.
And that happens a lot too, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
They get the TIF and then they appeal their assessment.
Yeah, and there's
And you're like, you have a
what?
whole TIF district based on that assessment, and they're trying to lower it. It's ridiculous.
but corporate law departments make their bread and butter doing that stuff, right?
Without
I
a
mean,
doubt.
so it makes sense for these larger corporations to do that kind of stuff.
Hey, Councilman, we were talking a little bit about Cline Avenue Bridge before you walked in. Have you taken it yet?
I have. I took my whole family up to, so my grandma used to live in Robertsdale before she passed away.
Very nice.
And so I loaded up the kids, I want to say, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, and we just drove up to Whiting Park
Nice.
and
Isn't
to
it gorgeous?
Walhalla Beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's cold as heck, and you
Yeah.
can't really go on the beach, but it's kind of cool to just sit there and watch the waves crash
Without a
in
doubt.
and
I love
whatever.
it.
Hall
I
is
love-
gorgeous.
oh,
yeah.
The way they redid it a few
Oh,
years
yeah.
back.
Yeah, the Whiting
It's
Beach.
wonderful.
Whiting Park,
Walkways.
yeah.
And then, of course, we stopped off at Grindhouse, which is a fan favorite
Yeah.
in Griffith, right?
Yeah.
And they have a new Whiting location. But the Cline Avenue Bridge, I was pretty impressed with it. I heard what you guys were talking about before I got on the show.
Yeah, what was your experience on it?
It's a little bit freaky when you're in that one lane situation because I was expecting it to be a lot bigger than that. And I'm like, what is happening over here?
You got the family in tow.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, all right,
You think,
slow down.
honestly, old habits, I've driven over that bridge 1,000 times.
Right.
My
Oh, yeah.
old habit, I almost swung into the fast lane.
Oh,
I
really?
was like, oh my God, If like I was like
The fast lane's now the other
discombobulated.
lane.
Yeah, the fast lane's oncoming traffic
Yeah.
now. That's one of the things. I hope maybe I'm just
Please
unique.
don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
I'm trying to figure this out. So, I mean, I could see myself taking that to get up to, Whiting, Robertsdale, like for Pierogi Fest or
Yeah,
whatever. That's
right.
that's a wonderful
Or
area.
Chicago, obviously.
Yeah, well, but then I'm questioning about that because when I normally go to Chicago, like if I have to go up to the Dirksen for federal court, what I normally would do is I would just take Cline Avenue until I can get off onto the toll road, and then the
gotcha.
toll road
Yeah.
is like, I think it's a lot cheaper than taking the Cline Avenue Bridge.
I want to say I thought it was like $4 or something stupid.
I think it's I want to say it's $250.
Maybe it is
each way, but
$250
yeah.
each way though.
Yeah.
With an iPass, right?
Right,
So
with
I'm
iPass.
thinking, okay, cool. If I take the toll road, it's like 35
Yeah,
cents.
you're right.
So I don't
way
understand
cheaper.
why I would do that.
I agree with you. That's a
So,
good point.
I'm curious. I mean, again,
I'm just so used to taking the Cline Avenue Bridge because it was available and it was free.
Right.
You're right though. It's
Yeah.
so expensive now.
If I'm going Crown Point to Lost Marsh.
Yeah,
it's a
why, if
good,
you're going to
it's a
Chicago,
good
why wouldn't
route,
you just
but
get off and take the toll
You
road?
could.
That's a great
You
point.
could do that too.
exactly.
Yeah, man. Thanks for
So-
coming on and enlightening
Hey,
me,
man.
Councilman.
Hey, you know what? I'm trying to save you some money.
I appreciate that.
you're
I'm
not helping
forking
that.
out $250 each
You're not
way.
helping the bridge company.
Yeah, man. Like, you know what? I'm a creature of habit. That's my problem. Is like I'm so used to like doing things this way that I just do it.
Before
like that.
we end,
By the way,
I want to get. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
humongous audience.
Yeah, thank
like,
you.
Councilman. Like,
All you
did a
need to
great
do is
job.
say Highland, and look what
Yeah,
happened.
we're bringing you on again
Crazy.
for sure. I mean, first off, you've been a great guest. I
Appreciate it.
really
Thank you.
appreciate you coming on. And,
No, thanks for having me.
you know, you can go back and tell your friends that I'm not the devil.
Yeah,
I
no,
know.
I mean, I'll tell you. It's funny, like, I was explaining it, so some of the, I won't name names, right, but they're like, what the hell are you doing,
Name
right?
'em.
Like, they're ours. And I'm like, well, I'm like the opposite of, I had to explain it in like the Fox News context. I was like,
Yeah.
you know who Juan Williams is on Fox News? Like, he's the
Right.
guy that always like,
Don't compare Tom
I'm
to
like,
Juan Williams.
I'm like, no.
Himself to Juan
I'm
Williams.
like,
compare yourself to
he's
Juan Williams.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm the
Thank God.
Juan Williams of left of center.
Thank you. You can be Juan Williams anytime,
Exactly.
right?
All right,
Councilman?
appreciate it.
Great.
No,
Before-
seriously, you've been excellent, man.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate you coming on. And by the way, you're not the first Republican we had. We had my father in here. We had Cal Guy in here, and
Yeah, we
I think
bring
we
him
had
in
one
once
more
in a while.
besides that,
You know,
too.
We
we
had
drag
John
him in
Esquire
once
here.
in a while.
Yeah,
it's
Sean
left of
does,
center.
man.
We want to
Let
make
me,
sure we hear everybody. Yeah,
Before
for
you
sure.
go, Super Bowl. Where are you?
Well, I mean,
interested, yes.
Where am I in terms of like
Who you
we're-
picking?
Oh, because I'm definitely going to be in my own living room, right?
Yeah.
That's COVID,
Yes,
right?
yes.
But
Who do you think's
yeah.
gonna win?
No, I'm kind of. I hate to say this like publicly, but I'm kind of a Tom Brady fan. You
I
know,
am
like
too.
I didn't really enjoy him when he was with the
I
Patriots.
love Tom Brady.
But the thing is, if you look at his history, he was like a ninth round draft pick, right? He was underestimated
Right.
in college.
Michigan,
he played like the second half, and after the first quarterback would screw it up, they would send Tom Brady in, and he would fix it and turn it around. So I'm kind of like, he is as popular and good as he is actually kind of an underdog, and I feel like
Interesting.
You know, I'm no Tom Brady, but like
Yep.
people underestimate me too, and I'm
for
like, you know what, I can relate in that sense. So
Being
you
a
know,
plaintiff's lawyer, you're always
People
underestimated.
overestimate me. That's the thing I got going.
that's cool. Though. That's cool.
Yeah.
expect
and
so
then I
much from you.
underperform.
Yeah, I wish I had that problem.
Yeah.
So
There's
All right. John?
before we close up, there's
Yeah.
a couple, only because there's a lot of stuff in the chat about this.
Yeah.
Can you clear something up, Councilman?
Sure.
The way this is being proposed now is people are saying in the chat the net like tax income to Highland would be zero for a long time. Is that true or no?
I think we would be in the red for a while. I think it would take, you know, I tried to crunch the numbers, and, you know, I'm sure Mike Griffin may have a different idea, but I think that it would take something to the effect of like 8 or 10 years to maybe even get into the black.
And when you say in the red, you just mean that the tax dollars would be used for either the incentives or other costs to the town.
We would basically be repaying ourselves for the incentives that we're putting in. And so maybe you break even at like that 8 to 10 year range, right. But it really depends on how you would structure this proposed TIF, how you would structure the current incentives that have already been out there. I mean, I tried to cancel that contract, and you know they didn't like that so well. But you know, in any event, you know, it would be several years before you see any benefit from it, in my opinion. And I don't think this project is something that I can sign up. I'm not saying TIF is bad or that I never would use it. I'm just saying in this project, I don't see the value.
Let me ask you a question. This is going back to Michael Griffin. For those of you who aren't familiar, Michael's a very, very intelligent clerk treasurer. He's been clerk treasurer longer than I've been mayor. I want to say over 20 years easily.
Yeah, I think like since 92 or
Okay,
91,
and he's
like that.
he's very, you know, obviously Highland loves him as far as they've kept him around for years. He's very smart. A lot of people around the region respect him. And then I imagine you come in, you're sort of a shock to the system. Which
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard that
Shocky
before,
to the
right?
system. Just a
You're a
bit.
shocky to the system,
I
right?
am.
And you come in, and then you have this longtime clerk treasurer that's, you know, very well esteemed in his community, and you come in and you guys sort of see the world differently.
Sure.
Has that been tough to deal with? Like, because he's a smart dude,
Yeah,
you know, and you're a smart dude, and you're, sort of his opposite in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah, and look, I get along with him very well. It's just the thing is that I think for a long period of time, he's just, people have said whatever Michael Griffin says is gospel, and like he's a smart guy, and I agree with all that. But at the end of the day, like, I ask questions, and I don't care
Nothing
who you
wrong
are,
with that.
whether you've been around for a long time or you just showed up yesterday. I'm going to be asking questions because I'm trust, but I trust and verify. So let's do it. And so
that's George W. Bush, right?
It's actually Reagan, I think.
Was it Reagan?
Yeah.
Trust but verify.
But either way, I mean, and again, I'm not saying that he's doing anything wrong or anything like that, but I ask some difficult questions sometimes, and people don't like that when I do ask those difficult questions.
That's why they elected you, Councilman.
I know. So
yeah.
and that's what I'm doing. So I, like it, hate it, I'm here and I'm doing it.
Awesome.
Do you feel this whole thing with the farm? Do you feel because it's in your district that is your? I mean, obviously it's in your district, right?
Yes.
So do you feel because it's in your district you have to fight this hard, or would you, if you had lived in another district, would you be fighting just as hard?
I think I'd be fighting just as hard. And it's funny because a lot of the other districts, for other reasons, have started to reach out to me because they're like, man, this guy's on fire with the farm. So we've got an issue in, whatever, Ward 1 or Ward 5 or something. So we want him to be on our side. So it's kind of weird. It's like Hunger Games, right? You've seen where there's that like kind of empathy between districts, I find myself fighting hard no matter what. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. But yeah, absolutely. It's in my backyard. I'm going to fight like hell.
Yeah,
I'm going to make sure
this
that
is your
it's
district.
Definitely.
Councilman, you've been a great guest. I hope you come back on the show with us again.
Welcome me back, and I'll be here.
I love it, man. I really, you've been on fire. We've had a great audience. You've done a really good job. I appreciate it very much from my perspective, Kev.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for coming on, Mark.
Thank you.
It's always good to see you,
Yeah.
especially in this role. We see each other as lawyers, but it's good to have you on as a councilman and hear from you. So.
I would be happy if you were my councilman. You're a fighter, I could tell, and you know what you're talking about. And you know what? Like, the thing about local politics is D's and R's, we all see the world a different way as far as national and state. But I tell you, when it comes to local issues, you just wanted somebody that's smart and is going to fight hard. Really, that's what it boils down to. Like,
I agree.
I don't think your politics are much different than my politics when it comes to local issues,
I agree. It's funny. My wife is a Democrat, so like I can't
Good
really,
for her.
And
We
so is
love
my
her.
whole family, right? So
We
it's
love all of them.
It's so
Good for your
crazy.
family, dude.
I know.
What happened?
I'm the black
Divorce her.
sheep, right? But it's crazy because it's like, people, they'll want me to go one way or the other, and I'm like, look, I got to sleep next to this lady. I don't want to die.
Good for her.
Good thinking.
I like your
Anyway,
wife.
Yeah. So it's good stuff.
John,
thanks,
did you have
Mark.
something before we closed out?
Yeah, I just wanted to give everyone an update on the GoFundMe that
Yes,
Mayor Thomas
please do.
started. We are almost over $5,000.
Holy
Great.
that is awesome.
The show started, we were at 3,000.
It's so
All right,
great.
well-
Councilman Schocke said he was going to do $500.
Well, I think,
He's like, what?
I think it was Gladys. That was
Oh,
gonna
it's
do
Gladys.
$500.
Gladys, shoot.
We should send him that bill. That's fine. I'm cool with that.
No, but
So.
Lindsay's posting the link in the chat right now, so everyone
Good
that's
call,
tuning
John.
in, go on and give what you can. This is for a local girl.
Ariana's a young girl. She's a fifth grader battling leukemia, and her family's just been through hell this year. So, but Councilman Schocke, you've been an amazing guest. You've done a great job for the town of Highland. If you ever need anything, I'm just right across the border. Keep up the good work.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you for coming on Left to Center. We appreciate
you.
it very
Thanks,
much.
Councilman.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Okay, to Kevin, to John, to Lindsay, great job today, and to all of our guests and all the people that are donating to GoFundMe, thank you so much. Please don't forget, we're going to talk about it on Friday. Hopefully we hit our 10K and I can get a damn haircut finally. So thanks to everybody who was watching Left to Center. Don't forget to rate and subscribe and, do all that stuff, and we'll see you on Friday. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.